Sorry, I couldn't get the computer to work. So if I get a phone call I have to take, I kind of have to take it, unfortunately. So I try to do it on the computer and just like it was just spinning. I don't know if I need to download some software for it. Glad to see everybody's back though, which is nice. So we'll see what happens. But there are some possible developments in my life. So I haven't done a lot of videos. I haven't done any live streams because I've focused more on. I've talked about it on my last live stream, but I am gonna take the LSATs, which is the prep test, which is the test to get into law school, and I would, hey, California Jimmy. And if I go to law school, or if I get in, if I get it, the grade I'm looking for, I'm going to apply to a bunch of law schools. And I don't want to jump the gun or anything, but I'm going to apply to law schools that would have palms readily available, so that hopefully it wouldn't change a lot. Worst case scenario is I'm in like a temperate zone that could still grow palms and see money. So speaking of money, so the idea is that I enjoy what I do. I like doing this. I like talking with you guys. I like making videos. I like the feedback. I love palms, but I don't. I've decided that I don't like making palms my profession. I don't want to depend on it for money because it changes your view on the plants. So I got into it, as I told you guys, 17 years ago when I left college, and it really did help me out a lot with a lot of things I was dealing with in life back then. And I want to be able to enjoy palms like I did back then. And so as a result, I'm going to try and enjoy the palm part of it purely as like a collector. And I feel like I've met so many great people, not only in the palm community outside of this channel, but also on this channel. I've got to meet a couple of you guys. I met Dylan, I met Ryan, and I met another subscriber when I was in Greenville, South Carolina. In fact, it was the first person I met, a guy there. I didn't do a video on it or anything, but he had a really nice garden in downtown Greenville. Um, yeah, it does take. I mean, it takes a while, but there are parts of working with plants that can be difficult, and one of the hardest parts is dealing with other people in the community. And I've known a lot of people that you may know in the palm community for a long time, and I get along with almost all of them. A few of them I don't for certain reasons, um, and it's pretty much just business. And I don't want that to get in the way of what I enjoy doing. I want to be able to look at palms like the way that Dent Smith or David Fairchild looked at them. They didn't depend on plants for a living, and there are some guys that are able to do it. Like Dale Holton is pretty good. His entire life has been dedicated to kind of collecting plants, and hasn't been his primary. Oh, let's see. Charles, who is it? Huckstadt? Huckstedt? Because in German it would be a little more pronounced, but let me see here. So Big G, in windy part of Palm Springs. Bismarckia stands up to winds pretty well because it's from Madagascar. They do see cyclones. They do really well here in Florida. They don't do as well as say like a coconut or a royal, but they'll handle 100-mile-an-hour winds. They'll definitely handle anything that Palm Springs is going to have, which would be like 70 or 80 from those. Like I guess you guys get the Santa Ana winds. I'm not sure. So yeah, everything turns into a business. I you know, I just sorry, getting I I just feel that sorry, I'm a little bit a lot. It's been a long day. Um, I think I had a passion for palms that was much greater in 15 years ago. Obviously, I kind of regenerated that over the years, the recent years when I came back into it. And then it's kind of it's just become. I enjoy doing this more than I enjoy doing stuff like seeds or plants, and I would like to find my happiness there again. So let's go back to moving to the Philippines, transplanting palms. You're gonna move palms to the Philippines? Yeah, full-time work for um, so Todd, he had Bismarckia seeds that threw them in a tap, throw a tapper and planted them in stewies. How hot and how humid and how long to get a first leaf. So the first leaf, depending on from the point of germination to the first spike for any given Bismarck seed, you're gonna look at like 3 to 4 weeks, maybe. It's been a while since I've germinated Bismarckia, but that's what I remember. Um, Ryan, that would be easy. I'd take the 1 acre because I can look at it 5 acres of Christmas Royals, the common stuff, but 1 acre to do whatever I want with. I'd be surprised what you can do with just 1 acre. I've seen some pretty crazy gardens. So, and I didn't want to say that I lost some of the luster of the palm thing because until I found what I did want to do, I didn't want to just say that because that's not the point of this channel is for me to gripe about how much the crappy parts of working in the plant industry. I see a lot of it. I see a lot of people get frustrated. Everybody likes palms and everybody wants to grow them and people want to sell them. They don't explain the parts that are really tough. They're very labor intensive. Certain parts are easy. Brokering plants is in my opinion, pretty easy. So Dylan, the most hurricane resistant plants, palms are going to be, I don't know if there's any particular order, but Royals and palmettos for like more common stuff, and then you got hurricane palms, which are named that for a reason. Sadakentia, Veitchias are very hurricane resistant. Bottles and spindles are extremely tough. The bottle, in my opinion, might be the toughest of them all. I've seen bottles unfazed by like Cat 5s. They just don't move, and their leaves are not very long. They don't take up a lot of wind, and when they do, they can just kind of rip off. Sadakentias are definitely up there. So Big G, you have the right idea there. David Fairchild was once asked what his favorite palm was. This is like in the 30s, and he said the one standing in front of me. So you kind of had a similar logic with the one I can grow. So Royals can take a little while. You don't need to take the seed out. The seed will you don't need to take the fruit off. The fruit will fall apart naturally, and it can take up to 3 to 6 months sometimes. If it's really hot and humid, it can be like a couple months, but they're not like palmettos where they just germinate, where they just pop, a few days later. So, Hookstead, easy that way. Yeah. How hot? Well, I would say between 90 and 105 Fahrenheit. I wouldn't go above 105. I wouldn't go below 85. So, wild Washingtonians all over your yard, I would uproot them as soon as you can, unless you want them there. They do have dinosaur-looking eggs, but Hyphani actually has more dinosaur-looking eggs. Okay, so understory palm that gets about 8 to 10 feet tall and can handle wind, zone 11. So you don't have to worry about any cold, really. That's a good, can handle some wind. I don't get that question a lot. Most people ask me like, what can handle really windy, sunny zone 5? And I don't, it's a simple answer, but to handle some wind in zone in the tropics, that's understory. I'm trying to think of a good one. I'm not trying to think of just any one. Got me a little bit thinking of what grows in the New World. As far as like New World palms, Camedurias. My personal, well, this isn't a tropical one, but I personally like Cameduria turkheimii, the blue form. I don't know where in the tropics you live, but that should be able to grow for you. It's called the potato chip palm. It has very tiny little leaflets. If you want me to spell it out, I can. I can't write it because I don't have the ability to chat, but it's Tuerckhemii. So you can watch this again and spell it out if you need me to. Now, as far as more tropical stuff, Areca vestiaria would be a good one. I'm not trying to go too rare because if it's too rare, you're not going to be able to um, you're not going to be able to find it. I mean, you can look for it, but uh, trying to think of some good understory. A lot of the Penangas, Penanga veitchii is a very cool palm. Penanga maculata is a very nice palm. These are all colored emergent. They kind of have like a stained glass look. They're mottled and they have a new colored leaf. I would look in the Penanga and Areca genera for the palm that you would want because you can grow all of them. So moving to the Philippines here, learning basics. Hey, it's good. This is a place to learn. Yeah, one Washingtonia can turn an entire city to weeds. I think Vaquero feeding South Florida, I would do great in Palm Springs. It may not like some of the hottest weather or some of the coldest weather, but it'll handle it. But it is by far the best coconut substitute for for that area. So you're in Marathon, okay? So Penanga, I would go. I'm sorry. Some of the a lot of those Penangas that with the thicker leaves can handle that wind. And that's what I would go for. So, any tips to popping? Yeah, just as humid as you can get it. Use a very moist media like wet peat or coir. It can be soaking wet. Put it out. You can put it outside or it's hot. Keep it at least 90 degrees. It can take up to 6 months, but they will germinate as long as they're viable. And keep them in a closed container. The lipstick seeds, the cedar statue seeds. So no, it's a cranberry lime polar. I'm not a big fan of it. I drink it when I'm not eating something else because it tends to make everything else taste disgusting. So I haven't had it ready in the fridge. I'm more of the fan of the mandarin, but Publix doesn't sell it, so they only have orange vanilla, which I don't like. I haven't tried it, but I don't think I want to. Penangas can handle wind. The thicker leafed ones, they tend to have leaflets that are not too like hanging around. And another good one that can handle wind is Hydria steli, and there's Hydria pinangoides, which means like Penanga. So there's a lot of Penanga-like Hydria steles or Hydria steles, depending on how you want to look at it. The Trying to think if the entire genus is worth looking at. It's Hydriastele. You can remember that. So I used to grow Dracaena Draco Um, they take a while to get a decent size. I haven't seen any over, say, like 6 feet tall with maybe one branch. Do I know of any more exotic palms that grow in Redding? So in Redding, you're gonna have like a kind of a hot Mediterranean climate. Oh, I mean, sorry, like a warm, hot summer Mediterranean climate with a cooler winter than average. It's kind of like the top end of the valley there. And interesting palms to grow. I would try looking into the Arenga genus. A lot of them are very cold hardy, and they're definitely zone 9 palms. Maybe some Willikia, like Willikia distica. Anything related to Arenga, so all the fishtail palms. Maybe not the big ones. Not you could try them out, but I would try and look at those just offhand. No problem, Christopher. What kind of palm suckers the most? I don't know, because too many people plant like 30 seeds at a pot, but um, it could be Reclinata. It could be like could be one of the weird Dipsis clumpers, but Phoenix in general will clump. Recolana does clump quite a bit. That could be the most clumping of all palms. A couple other real big clumpers like Serenoa, Nipa fruticans actually clumps quite a bit, which is one I have not covered. I'd like to if I can get to Miami. There's some in a garden there. They do like full sun. Lipsticks do enjoy full sun. They'll grow in the shade, but they'll grow faster in the sun. So if you have the why law, that's a good question, Todd. Um, I'm very, I like to think I'm very persuasive, and a lot of the other things I've done in life have led to like the idea of using logic to uh, as a profession. So I used to play poker. Poker is a game of I mean, it's a game of math, but it's also a game of using strategy, and a lot of strategy is based off of having plans, thinking, what can I do here, what can I do there, and I found a lot of lawyers are very good poker players. So I thought maybe some poker players would be good lawyers. That's not very good logic, but it's a possibility. And I was going to go into law after my undergrad in Connecticut, and then I left and did palms instead. So it's kind of like a bringing apart a disconnect that I had in my life. So Cheech and Chong on gardening. I don't know. I'm not sure what you're trying to get at, but Clyde. But I don't have an answer for you there. Yeah, check out the fishtails. They can handle, they don't handle a ton of wind, but they'll handle a lot of other things. Yeah, needle palm definitely suckers a lot. That was just Caryotomitis. It was a common fishtail, nothing too amazing. So yeah, Pseudostachys definitely suckers a lot, good amount. Chris, what are you sorry for at how West Palm? Lee Branch. Yeah, I've seen a lot of palms destroyed when there's new houses. My mom's old house when I used to grow palms there. They've cut down most of the palms that I could not save. So bite the pop. So if you have Salaka in a pot, I would plant it in the wettest part of your garden, and you can plant it in some sun, maybe up to a half day. You can plant it in full day sun. It's going to look better at a half day sun. But remember that it has a lot of spines. They hook. You're going to go near that plant, it's going to catch you. So, oh, the melon. Yeah, no, there's no relation there, Clyde. I'm just tired. I'm sorry. With it being later tonight, I haven't eaten dinner either. I wasn't going to do this for too long, but thanks for the congratulations, B Aviation. Always do is it. Yeah, it's not that I'm not, part of this is me kind of explaining, a future. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed the chat. I'm sorry I don't have more energy. Uh, yeah, the vaccine card was, my mom can be a very funny person. So that's what part of why I enjoy living with her. I got my first vaccine 2.5 weeks ago. Get my next one in the next week or so. So give me 1 second here. Just need to reply to one thing. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to do that. I was trying to reply while still having the chat running, and I don't know. I accidentally had to pause it. So, so it is. I don't even. Let me see what time it is here. Okay, so it's 9:41. So, I don't know if it's an early bedtime, but I haven't eaten dinner, and I did. I'm a big fan of Hell's Kitchen, and I just bought the new season. I'm gonna finish watching that. I'm certain B Aviation that they've been engineering a lot of stuff in the plant world. Engineering them for colder temperatures will definitely be a possibility within the next 20 years. Which is the hybrid, I would say doesn't need as much as the regular Pseudostachys, but I would give it that because until it's more is known, if you only have one of them, I wouldn't try an experiment. So like, if I only have one palm of a species, I'm going to do exactly what I think is going to be the best way to take care of it. I don't want to test it out unless it's absolutely necessary. So, if there's the the effects of having a um, the effects of palms being able to be grown throughout the world in 20 years, if that's what happens. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying it's very possible. If that's what happens, people are going to um, people are basically just going to not hold palms. They're going to hold them in a different regard. They're going to. Oh, I wish my mom wouldn't turn that up so loud. Um, they're going to not associate them with the tropics anymore, and they might look at them as just some other plants that grow around their neighborhood. So I think that palms belong in the tropics. I don't like hybridizing palms unless it really produces something that quite unique, um, or has a benefit of some sort. So if like let's say you could hybridize a coconut with something to make it even more productive for food, I would get that. So, but yeah, the genetic modifications, I certainly through human natural selection, I think it can happen a lot faster than just through natural selection. Just like we've done with like animals, we can do the same thing with plants. We've done it with corn and other important things, and we're going to get bored and do with things that are ornamental value. So, yeah, so the novelty would be gone because I remember, excuse me, as a kid, when I was like 10, 11 years old in the early 90s, I would be driving down my family from Virginia to Florida. And the coolest part was like, we'd drive for the night. In the morning, we were in Georgia, and you could see like the Serenoa growing on the side of the highway. And so the novelty of palms is still a thing for me. So if like I'm in an area that doesn't have palms everywhere, it kind of makes me feel like I'm not at home. But I still enjoy palms. I still enjoy seeing them. But I have gotten jaded by a lot of species of palms. People will show me a plant that they're very proud of, and I think they should be. It might be hard to grow, but it's not rare to me at least. And I would say, and I'm not trying to like big time anyone, but it takes a lot to impress me with a rare palm. So I'm not trying to make it sound like I've seen everything because I haven't. I haven't been to Hawaii, I haven't been to California, but I would probably be highly impressed standing next to a Jubea and a pair of Jubeas because I think they're really cool plants. They may not be rare, but they are impressive. And it's all relative to where you live. Coconuts are very cool to people in California, more so than many people in Florida. But I don't know if I don't know, deciduous palms wouldn't really work because the palm has to constantly be taking in the nature of, because a palm by nature is not a tree, and so if it lost all of its leaves, it had no ability to photosynthesize. I'm not sure about the science behind that, but I don't think it would work out. So, um, yeah, I'm just not familiar with. I don't think that's a possibility. I mean, if you want a deciduous palm, just cut off all the leaves. They'll grow back, but you keep on doing that, you'll eventually kill it. That's how you make a palm deciduous. You stick a chainsaw to the crown, which I don't recommend for most species. But one thing that seeing a ton of palms has done for me is made me dislike a few species. And I know you guys probably don't want to hear this, but I'm not a big fan of Washingtonias. Folifera, yes, but robusta is like everywhere. And I actually don't mind queens when they're well grown. Um, I think that there's just too much. I'm not really a big fan of pygmy dates because they're overused here and underfed. Thanks, Todd. No problem. I enjoy doing all this, and I'm glad you enjoy it. Seasonal grass that went dormant. It's kind of like going deciduous. Uh, I'm trying to think. I mean, it's not that there are no deciduous palms don't lose leaves and then grow them back. So it kind of takes away like the fundamental nature of what a palm is. A palm is just a large blade of grass, scientifically speaking. and the blades of grass kind of grow out from the blade of grass that we see as like grassy, but the earth sees the palm as a blade of grass. From a higher perspective, if you were like 500 feet tall, you would think that a palm was just a blade of grass to you. So, hey, GD, what's going on, man? Ow, keep on hitting this desk. Yeah, and when I notice like palmettos growing in, say, South Carolina versus growing here, there is definitely a difference, especially if they've been transplanted there, not growing naturally. They don't seem to have as healthy of a crown, and they just seem to be a little bit weaker looking. They're not nearly as fat. Palmettos. I don't know about Washingtonians, but palmettos in particular, I'm not sure why it is. It could be all due to the soil. So, um, and when you see palmettos growing in other climates in Florida or the Caribbean, say you see them growing in California, they're going to look different. Royals are going to look different. There's some royals that grow. I think it's at like the Maricopa County Courthouse in Phoenix or City Hall. At least they were growing there, and they were doing fine. The low humidity doesn't treat them very well, but otherwise speaking, so yeah. So uh, palms are dying in Florida for multiple reasons. So you have a lot of date palms dying from weevil, Ganoderma, fusarium wilt. You have um, you have palmettos dying from lethal bronzing, and that's happening a lot in this area. Yeah, Queens like a rich soil. Queens, although they naturally grow kind of like in a rocky area, they look a lot better in like they do better in some muck. They really don't rot out that much. They really like a heavy soil, which is surprising because they really don't grow in heavy soils in most of their habitat. But yeah, but especially where you are, that's going to be you have a lot. Most of the keys is going to be a lot of exposure. You're going to need sun and wind tolerant and salt tolerant palms. And Adenidia is surprising because Adenidia is from the rainforest of the Philippines. It's actually mostly an understory palm, but magically it really does well with a lot of neglect and plenty of sun. I've seen some pretty decent looking Adenidias growing here in Venice in like an abandoned shopping mall, and they're not dying. So considering where they come from, it's pretty amazing. The bottom front. Uh, Most of the time, it's for access to the coconuts, or for reasons of keeping rodents out, because that's a big problem. The coconuts are important to them. So, hey, Justin, how's it going? Yeah. Places like Miami are trying to phase out coconuts, or at least not plant new ones. I understand why they want to do that, but they need to understand like how Miami was started as a farming area. As a Miami Beach was a coconut plantation before it was anything else. Miami was an orange uh, grove. I mean, a place where there was the reason Miami became so popular was there was a freeze in 1895, and it wiped out almost the entire citrus crop in Florida, but it didn't wipe it out in Miami. So I forget the name of the lady. I think she like wrote a letter to Henry Flagler telling him to build a railroad to Miami, and I don't know if this is a complete story, but Henry Flagler built a railroad to West Palm Beach and said to bring it to Miami, and he didn't want to do it at first, and then I think he did do it. I don't know. My Florida history isn't totally on point, but he originally didn't want to do it. Then they realized like, hey, Miami is a very good place to grow things. It's the warmest part of South Florida, and the Keys were back then. The Keys were not connected to Miami, and the Keys had no connection. There was no bridge or anything. If you wanted to go to the Keys, you had to take a boat. And Miami had 500 people in it in 1895. Imagine that. So I don't think that the aviation. That's a good question because I thought about moving to inland Florida. The benefits are if you want to live in the country, you can do that. The downside is you're going to get a lot more frost pretty much everywhere in inland Florida, unless you live like in the southernmost tip, which really is, I mean, it's just not worth it. It gets so hot in the summer down there. I mean, down near Immokalee, where you can, I mean, you can get away with coconuts. I've seen them there, but it will get frosty. I I've felt more comfortable with living in an area that is not necessarily frost free, having lived here as long as I have. But I don't enjoy the traffic is terrible a lot of the year here. And there's no slowing down of people coming here. I mean, there's 22 million people here in Florida. I mean, it's easily going to hit 30 million in 10 or 15 years. So at this rate. So the dark green you see, Big G, when you buy the palms, because they're growing in an immaculate climate in a shade house. Almost all palms you'll see in a Home Depot or Lowe's are going to be from a shade house, usually like 60% shade. It allows for the plant. Every palm, when grown in more shade, or almost every palm when grown in more shade, will have a deeper green color to it. If you look at, say, for example, Majesty palms that are grown out in the sun, they have a lighter lime green, and the ones grown in shade that you see at Home Depot are going to have this dark forest or British racing green color to them. And it's just them acclimating to the climate that they're offered, or the sunlight that they're offered. Hey, Matthew Majestic, what's going on? So, and a lot of that is also just the fertilizer. I mean, they have a perfect fertilization schedule for these plants. And Home Depot and Lowe's don't grow anything. They are just a place for the wholesaler to broker them, and they just take a piece of it. So unless you can see that the person that's working there really knows what they're talking about, I wouldn't take their word for almost anything. I'm not saying that they don't know what they're talking about, but they're there to sell a plant. They're not there. They haven't grown the plant. It's kind of, for example, you're going to buy a car, right? Um, and you go to say you want to buy a used car, you go to a dealership and you say, hey, what was the previous owner like? Did he take good care of it? Did he drive it a lot? What did he drive it for? You know, and the salesman's not going to know those answers because they didn't own the car. But if you go to a private owner, then the person can tell you everything they know about the car, at least what they're willing to tell you. So the same goes for palm. So if someone grows it from seed and has grown it all the way up into a 7 gallon, they can say exactly, hey, this palm was a real fast grower to a 3 gallon. It kind of slowed down, or vice versa. It's good to know the owner, the previous owner of the plant, just like the good to know the previous owner of the car. Hold on a second. Thought someone pulled into my driveway. Yeah, there is some open land through Orlando. Orlando isn't too congested as far as like housing goes, but it is very spread out, and there's a lot of it. You want to drive through all of Orlando. So, Bob, really the only fast-growing Cocothrynex is Cocothrynex barbadensis slash Alta, which can be also given a name to. So, uh, there isn't a cultivar of Cycas revoluta, Dylan, but there is another species called Cycas panzhauensis. So if you want to look that up, it's Panzhauensis, Panzhau, and it's look up cold hardy cycas, and you should be able to see it's a bluish version. There's some other ones that grow in a lot of desert areas of Australia, but that one grows in Taiwan or southern China. I can't remember. So, well, Sables do okay in Yorktown. I don't know. They seem to do okay in Virginia Beach, but Yorktown is going to be a different climate. I mean, it's really on the edge in Virginia Beach, so it's hard to say. Um, I think I think they're worth trying. Really, the furthest north I've seen palmettos grown without any protection, just doing perfectly fine, without any issue is like Jacksonville, North Carolina. And I know that they'll grow further north, but that's the furthest north I've seen them just out and about casually just being grown. So coconuts in the tropics are going to look better because usually the tropics have a less seasonal rain schedule. They're going to have rain more yearly. That's why coconuts in Miami look better than coconuts in, say, Cape Coral, because Cape Coral has more of a tropical savanna climate. Miami has more of a tropical monsoon climate. And then West Palm and Fort Lauderdale have a tropical rainforest climate. Technically, it's not really that, but by the they barely fits into that. It's really weird. Um, so when you go to say like the Philippines or Costa Rica, you see these these coconuts are just perfect. A lot of it can also do with a lot of the tropical areas have like volcanic soil, such as Hawaii or the Philippines, and they just have all the fertilization they require. So blue sable, or hold on, bros. So a blue, Dylan, there is a blue sable called Sable uricana, and it's native to northern Mexico. They're really nice. They're a little bit hard to find, and they're slow to grow, but they're pretty cold hardy, and they need full sun. Like they don't like to be in the shade, unlike other sables that can handle it. I wouldn't put them in shade because you're not going to get that blue color. That's not going to come out. It's not really blue, but it is bluish. It's kind of like a medium Bismarck color. Yeah, the coconuts in Hawaii. And in Hawaii, most parts of that you'll see the coconuts growing and have a rainforest climate. Now there are dry sides to Hawaii that are almost deserts, and India also has deserts. Not really in the tropical area, but you go to the south area like Bangalore, Madras, all the way up into Bombay and into I mean they call it Kolkata now. I'm always used to calling it Calcutta. That shows you how old I am, but. Yeah, because India, goes, New Delhi is a subtropical climate. It's close to tropical, but it can get cold there and then get extremely hot. I mean, coconuts don't like 110 degrees, 115 degrees. Very few palms do. I would recommend wrapping palms if they're cold hardy if you're in any marginal zone. Virginia is going to be pretty much all marginal zones for most palms, besides the southeastern kind of tip there. Did they? They did better than Bismarckia. That would make sense. They have a more compact crown. I didn't think a lot about Latanias, but especially blue Latanias because their leaves are more costa palmate, so they have less wind resistance. And the petioles are shorter, so they're not going to be able to like flap around as much as a Bismarckia would, which has a longer petiole, has a costa palmate leaf, but it's not nearly as costa. It's a much flatter costa palmate, if that would make sense. So the reds did good. I'm not surprised. Latania, those palms were all native to a much higher prone area for hurricanes than Bismarckia, because Bismarckia, although it's native to Madagascar, which does get cyclones or typhoons, they're native to the north central area, which does not get a direct hits. Where Latanias are native to the Mauritius and Reunion area, which will take direct hits from hurricanes. So Bermuda does have a nice climate. It doesn't get very hot, doesn't get very cold. The only thing about it is that the coconuts don't really produce any viable nuts. So just barely. If you were to just have like maybe 5 more degrees of heat, but you'll never have to worry about freezes there because I think like the lowest temperature is like 45, 47. So, but I am actually going to, it's 10 o'clock now. I'm going to end this for now. And I see people kind of getting off and, I haven't eaten dinner. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I got to do a few other things. I'm kind of running on fumes here as far as energy goes. But I am going to make a video thanking everyone and certain people for the 5,000 subscribers. I wanted to get on here, let you guys know I'm still around, and I will still be around in many forms. So hope you guys enjoyed this, and thank you for coming on here. I always appreciate you guys, and look forward to talking soon. So until then, I will see everyone. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.